When we typically think of art, what comes to mind? Is it artwork made with paint? Is it drawn with pencils? Or is it even sculpted through clay? What if there's an art form dating back hundreds, maybe even thousands of years ago that involves using trees from nature as the medium? The art that is produced takes years and even lifetimes to develop. The art form I'm speaking of is bonsai. Personally, I have been maintaining bonsai for 2 years and have done quite extensive research on the art to both better myself in the form as well as explain the history and art to you. Whether you are just interested in the rich history of bonsai, or maybe you saw one at the store or even in someone's house, I'll be explaining what a bonsai is, how to create and maintain one, and all the history that comes with the shapely little trees. To start off, I want to look at what makes a bonsai a bonsai. Well, a bonsai is not a certain type of tree. There are many species of bonsai with all different types of looks and attributes. An article from bonsaiempire.com explains that bon means a dish or thin bowl, while sai means a tree that is growing or planted. So in Japanese, when these two are put together, it means a tree that is planted in a small container, bonsai. Specifically, bonsai trees are little trees planted in a pot that are shaped and trained into mimicking real natural outdoor trees. I will speak to specifics later, but shaping consists of wiring up the trees to the shape you'd like, pruning or trimming them, and then maintaining them through fertilizing them. To have a bonsai is to have a living piece of nature in your home. Despite common belief of bonsai trees being labeled as indoor plants, they've been traditionally known as outdoor decorations in many Asian cultures. The art of bonsai is thought to have originated in China, and an article I found titled History of the Introduction and Establishment of Bonsai in the Western World by Thomas S. Elias states, the art of growing styled miniature trees in pots and trays began approximately 4,000 years ago. Since bonsai is so old, there's a lot of culture and techniques that come with it. Many correlate bonsai with the Japanese. However, according to Dan Hubik from bonsaisite.com, the Japanese weren't introduced to bonsai until the Kamakura period, which is roughly between 1200 and 1300. Around this time, many cultural trademarks from China became adopted by Japan. When reading a book titled Remarkable Trees of the World by Thomas Pakenham, it brought me to a quote by Kenko Yoshida, a Japanese author who was born roughly the late 1200s. And the quote reads, "To appreciate and find pleasure in curiously curved potted trees is to love deformity," which further confirms the introduction of bonsai trees into Japan around late 1200s. Many times bonsais are very curvy to mimic very old, windswept trees. Eventually, over the years, bonsai was introduced to the West and all over the world, where many people up to today practice it. Now that you have a little background knowledge on what bonsai is, I want to explain to you how the trees are made. During the early stages of the tree, it is very important to treat it similar to any other plant. They are planted and grown like any other tree, but however, when they start to reach maturity, they obtain a woody growth on the stem, which will eventually become the trunk of the bonsai. It is important to train the tree at a young age to ensure you get the shape that you desire. With me, I have my Fukian tea tree, as well as my Chinese elm. All these have a S-shaped curve to them. Now, how is this obtained? Well, after the trees grow that woody material on their stem, a thick wire is wrapped around them, and then the saplings are bent into shape to form that S. There's plenty of other shapes and techniques used to mimic other types of trees, but this was just the ones that I have here. It takes many years before the wire can be removed, but when the wire is removed, the tree holds the shape. Eventually, when they become old, they can be wired again and again until the artist gets a shape that they like. The trees are placed in small pots to limit their growth and maintain their unique small size. Trees grow much slower in a pot than they do in the natural outdoors in the ground, which is why bonsai trees can take so long to develop. The ones I showed you are anywhere from 8 to 15 years old. Eventually, when the trunk is shaped and the tree is planted in a desirable pot, the tree then needs to be pruned or trimmed to get a more natural shape. Pruning has to be maintained through the life of the tree as it is constantly growing new foliage. Pruning also helps to thicken up the trunk. When the tree feels it is hurt, it focuses its growth into the trunk to prevent any further damage. A thick trunk is important because it replicates natural trees much better than one with a skinny one. And this leads me to my final point, fertilizing. The trees are fertilized every few weeks to ensure that they get nutrients for a thicker trunk and more dense foliage. The tree is limited to the pot and the soil that it is put in, and it is the job of the person maintaining these trees to provide for the plant. The only nutrients are the ones that you add, so fertilizing is insanely important. Eventually, all these techniques form an amazing little tree. Bonsai is very interesting art, dating back many centuries. There are many types of bonsais and many different ways of shaping them. They need maintaining and care to ensure that they stay small and shapely to mimic the trees outside. And there's so much more info than what I discussed. But hopefully this gave you enough info when you see a bonsai that you know the culture and the history of bonsai, as well as all the meticulous care and time that goes into forming these amazing little trees. Thank you.